Hello, Santa Clara Unified Community. This is Jody Muirhead from your school board, and I'm here to talk today about our upcoming school board meeting that will be on Thursday evening, May 12th at 5:30 p.m. So I'll just give you a quick rundown of what's going on, and I will share my screen, because if I just bring up my screen, that doesn't do it for you. I have to actually share it. So there we go. So we've got our meeting coming up, like I said, Thursday, May 12th at 5:30 is when it starts. But we've got our initial thing is starting at 5:30, and then we're going into closed session, and there's a bunch of things we need to talk about in closed session. So it's going to be several hours. I've allocated 3.5 hours. I'm hoping we don't use that much, because that means the rest of the meeting is starting pretty late. So keep an eye on the live stream or the Zoom for when we will be back in open session. So then in open session, a lot of kind of similar things. We get a report from the superintendent and our union presidents. We get an update on COVID. There's been a little uptick in cases, but I don't haven't heard about any changes in protocols. So we will find out tomorrow from the superintendent and our staff if there's any updates on COVID. We have a number of consent items. These are things that we go through pretty quickly. Oh, and I skipped right over public comment on unagendized and public comment on agendized items. So if you want to speak on something that is not on the agenda, but you want to let us know, then you would do public comment on unagendized items. If you want to speak to something on the agenda, but you don't want to wait until later, when it comes up, you can speak here under public comment on agendized items. You always get 2 minutes. You can be in person to do that, or you can be on the Zoom webinar to give your comments, or you can email us comments, whichever works best for you. Okay, and then we go into all of these consent items, which are things that we just approve all in one batch. A lot of purchases for the new high school. So it's getting closer and closer. So we are buying all sorts of things for the high school. And that's McDonald High School. And then various other contracts and such that need approval. Then we have our action items that we are approving. So we have a number of things happening in the month of May. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, Foster Care Awareness Month, Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, Jewish American Heritage Month. So those are coming up. So we'll approve resolutions about each of those. We have our climate change resolution coming back to us. So at our last meeting, we had some students and a teacher give a little presentation about this resolution that they've worked on. Really excited about that, about how our kids, our students really care about climate change, and they've helped us write this resolution of things that we can do going forward. And then we have action item about expanding the scope and membership of our LGBT work group that we've asked the superintendent to put together to dive into policy changes and other updates that the district should be making for this community of students. We have a couple of HR action items. Not all districts allow their union presidents to have a full release, which means they're relieved from all of their regular jobs so that they can just be a union president. And as part of that agreement, we asked them to do some extra things, like really being involved in our labor management partnership initiative, working with members of their unions to collaborate with others within the union and administration. So we pay for these 2 people. So each year we have an agreement to allow that release for the following year. And we have a student expulsion. So that's coming up here. And then we have a bunch of different reports. So some of these we will spend some time on at the meeting. Some of them are just for our information. So you are welcome, all of these that have this little symbol on the right means there's an attachment there. So go ahead and take a look at them if you have an interest. So details about how our bonds are going and what some of the next steps are for our bond projects, our facilities projects, same thing, a report on what's going on around our facilities. We've got a report from our head of professional learning to give us some more information about what is going on there. Tied into the 2 resolutions that we had up here on foster care awareness and mental health awareness months. So tied to that, we've asked for a report on our district wellness program and supports for foster youth. We've been looking at ratios for various classes, trying to keep them down. So here's an update on staffing and class size for moderate and severe special ed classes. And then we have our Williams Valenzuela quarterly report. There's nothing on it for this quarter, so that's always good because this is where if there's complaints about lack of textbooks or lack of materials, that sort of thing, it would show up there, but we haven't had any. We've got a discussion item here about a new joint powers authority for municipal advisory services. So that's a lot of big words saying a group of districts are talking about joining together to create a group of staff members to advise us on things like buying and selling our bonds and our how we manage our bond money. So we've had a long time person doing it who is going to be retiring in the not too distant future. So we are looking at alternatives. And so this is sort of a first look for the board at what that might look like going forward. Then under planning, if you are having a hard time falling asleep and you want some long reading, there's about 300 pages of board policies from the past year. They got held up and they didn't come to us for a while. So now they're all coming to us at once for about the last year. So yeah, 300 pages, all of our board policies that needed updates. Mostly they're updates based on legal changes. So when the legislature changes something or ed code changes, laws change, whatever it is, those need to be reflected in our board policies. So we have a service that helps us keep those updated. And then there's a few changes in there also that are more specific to our district. So there's some financial reviews. There's going to be a new policy about that. The service that we use has come up with a civility policy. We had a civility policy that was very short, so integrating those two together. So there's some that are pretty straightforward. They're just legal changes, and then there's some where they're more significant. So we'll be going through some of those, the more significant ones we might be talking about when we get to this item. So at the beginning of the item, at the beginning of the attachment, there's a list of all of the policies that are changing. So if you are curious, you can just go through the first few pages and there'll be a list of all the policies that are changing. And then the next few pages go more in depth of just like a sentence or two about, or maybe a few sentences about what's changing in those policies. So if you just want to see if there's a particular policy that you might be interested in, you can go through just the first few pages to see if there's any of interest before you go through and read all 300 pages. So that's our first reading, and then it'll come back to us in future meetings for approval to change our board policies. And then last one was we had a board member who thought that maybe the board should have a discussion about if we need to do more about evaluating ourselves. So that's going to come up here to see if we want to do something like that. More than we always have governance meetings and we're always improving our craft, but this was a very specific request for a type of evaluation. Okay, so that's the meeting that's going on. It doesn't look like much, but I do think it's going to go for a while. If you've want to watch, you can come in person. We welcome people to come to the boardroom at the back of the district office, or you can join the Zoom webinar, and then you can comment if you'd like, or you can watch on the YouTube live stream. So all of those are available to you. You can email us comments if you want. All of that information about how to interact with the board meetings is available on the district website, santaclarausd.org/ I think it's public comment or public-comment. There's a webpage under the Board of Trustees section that talks about how to participate with the board meeting if you haven't done that before. And other than that, I hope to see you tomorrow at the board meeting at 5:30. And if you have any questions or anything you want to reach out to me about, you can always email me, jmuirhead@susd.net, or you can reach me on Facebook or Twitter. I'm out there as well. So let me know what you're thinking anytime. Feel free to reach out. Okay, talk to you later. Bye all.